Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester, and I'm glad that you're here this morning. We have some special guests here in the studio. Great show lined up. But first, let's take care of our weather. Brought to us by Gulf Coast Air Conditioning, Drew Pollard, and a hard-working crew taking care of our everyday comfort needs. High today, 85, low 70. Pretty comfortable day today. Water temperature dropped down 1 degree now, down to 79. So it's been a little bit of a dip compared to 2 weeks ago. It was 83 degrees. It's been interesting to follow. Take a look at our river region brought to us by Panama City, Coca-Cola, good folks down there, and good soft drinks. We're looking at Panama City. The weather as far as the Panama City area is really nice. It's reflected on the river regions because what's going on now, the river is starting to drop at Apalachicola. 14.7 at Bluntstown, at Choctawhatchee, at Caryville, 13.3. Choctawhatchee is staying up a little bit higher because there's a little bit more rain up there in South Alabama. So it's going to level off for this weekend's fishing on the river. It's going to be dropping out. It's going to be in good shape for the river. Our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. Good tides today on through to the weekend. Really good strong tides. High tide this morning at 8:45 and low tonight at 7:51. Winds coming out of south-southeast at about 11. Not a bad day to be out on the water. Let's take a break and we'll be right back with our special guest. Okay, welcome back. Our guest today is National Safe Boating Week, and we're bringing in the Coast Guard and Auxiliary. So we have Paul Bernard here and Brendan Klein. So welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Okay, real quick, sort of introduce yourselves, and then we're going to get started. We got a pile of stuff to do. We got to bring it in real fast. Okay, here we go.
All right, so my name is Brendan Klein. Just got here in August of last year. Moved from just outside of New York City, and I'm at the Coast Guard station in Panama City.
And I think y'all like it down here. You and your wife sort of
can't beat it.
Okay, Paul.
Hey, I'm Paul Bernard. I'm the Recreational Boating Safety Specialist. I'm based out in New Orleans. I work for the Coast Guard's 8th District, which is a 26-state territory, basically the heartland of the country. And we're here today to talk about National Safe Boating Week, Winston.
And you're from New Orleans, and you work out there?
I do, but I travel all over the place. Last week I was down at South Padre Island at the Texas-Mexico border doing some training with our units down there.
Wow.
So I get to bounce around a good bit. It's a neat job with a lot of neat opportunities.
That's cool. We're glad to have both of y'all. Appreciate y'all coming here early this morning, and let's get started. So National Safe Boating Week. So I know your experiences, both of y'all have been something. So let's share it.
So yeah, very simply put, Winston, the greatest danger in boating is not being in a boat anymore, whether it's from a fall overboard, an intentional departure, an ejection, or a capsize, or a swamping, or something like that. So we know the best mitigating tool for that is a life jacket. But Brendan will tell you this, when you're out there, what percentage of boaters that aren't required to wear a life jacket would you say wear them?
I'd have to say most people don't wear a life jacket if they don't have to.
Yeah, so we've tried really hard to move that needle over the years. Over the past 2 decades, we've only forced a 2% increase in life jacket wear among those that aren't required to wear them. And so life jackets are vital, yet few people wear them. The one that I'm wearing now is so comfortable, I literally forget that I've got it on. So there's so many good devices out there that I would encourage boaters to find the one that is comfortable enough for them to wear and to wear it. But we're going to do something a little different today. Well, Brendan, you know, in your active duty service, I did my 20 years on active duty and retired, and I've been as a civilian for 19 years. When you go out there and you recover someone, have you ever recovered anybody, a deceased person with a life jacket on?
No, sir.
No, and you know that's the same answer that we get wherever we go when we have these discussions, Winston. But let's do something here. Let's go from Boating Safety 101 to 201, and let's talk about the basic boating emergencies that boaters should be prepared for. Obviously, a person overboard, we need to be prepared for that. We need to be prepared for potentially a fire. They're kind of rare on outboard boats, but when they happen, you've got an instant to take care of things, or it's going to get bad. And then taking on water, your boat's sinking, and then you know what happens if you basically have to abandon ship. You do capsize or swamp. So, excuse me. we want boaters to have a plan, and those two fundamental steps in any emergency, even a first aid emergency, is sound the alarm, let everybody know on board, and then get some help coming, and then apply the initial action. And Brendan can tell you about that, because that's what we do in the Coast Guard. We practice that stuff religiously.
Absolutely, yeah. So we almost every day, we're out there training. We'll run through our, we call them Beckies, our basic engineering casualty control exercises. And they're basically drills for these exact situations. We'll run through cocks and down drills, fire drills, you name it, man overboards, just to make sure, in the event that something does actually happen, it's very rare, but you want to be ready. And, it goes with our credo, Semper Paratus. Always ready. Always ready.
Always ready.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, what we see often is, and I'll tell you this, I lost my two neighbors, the two neighbors that lived directly across the street. Mr. Huey and his father died in a person overboard accident. So, as you know this, Winston, as boaters, we sometimes have to relieve ourselves. So, the father goes to the back of the boat to relieve himself, lost his balance, and fell over, and they didn't quite know what to do. The very first thing you do, that throwable that always seems to be in the way on the boat, it's got a purpose, right?
Yeah.
So, take that and get it to the person that's in the water. Ideally, if the person in the water is in a life jacket, it's not quite the emergency it would be if they didn't have a life jacket on. But get that to them. So, what we saw with Mr. Huey is he did what people often do, and he jumped in to assist, and they both lost their lives in that accident. Man. So, very simply, somebody falls overboard, get them something that floats, and then recover them. And this is something else to think about, Winston. I'm getting on up there in years, and there was a time I could scramble, and I do a good bit of fishing and kayaking along. There was a time I could scramble back aboard any boat very, very easily.
Good point.
Such is not the case. So our solo boaters need to have a plan for getting back on board when they fall over. A lot of people fancy that they'll scramble up the outboard, kind of use it like a ladder. Man, we're not as young as we used to be, brother.
Yeah. And I've been preaching that recently. I'm the same way about going by yourself so much, especially out on the water or way back in the woods by yourself. You got to just have contact. And we've had so many incidents where this has happened with a single person out there and getting in trouble.
Yep, the buddy system works. Whether whether you're boating or kayaking, it's experiencing explosive growth. So.
Well, when I was teaching a little boating safety in the outdoor ed class, we had this motto. I guess we still have it: throw, tow, and then go. The last thing you do is go in the water. You throw something to them if they fall in the water. If that don't work, find something to reach out and tow them in. And then the last one, you go in as the last result.
Winston, I have never heard that. I've been in this game for 39 years, and I learned something today.
Tow, and go.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it, man. This is great.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Paul Bernard here with us from Coast Guard Auxiliary, and also Brendan Klein. Not Brandon Klein. We're U.S. Coast Guard, and we're talking about National Safe Boating Week. So we're doing great. We've got a couple more segments, so let's get started again. What's up?
So let's talk about fires. Fortunately, on outboard powered boats, which is what most of the boaters in the area have, they're relatively rare. But you do need to have a plan for that. Again, if you detect a fire or smoke or something, let everybody on board know. Get that distress alert out. You can get that distress alert out, and if everything works out okay, you just give us a call back, and we'll stand down. But we'd rather head out early than wait. So, and then your initial action in a fire is to get the fire extinguisher in its pass. You pull the pin, you aim, you squeeze, and you sweep at the base of the fire. So those are just the very basics of fighting a fire on board. Okay. Now let's talk about taking on water. Most often when a vessel takes on water, and I think y'all had a case recently where a boat was taken on water. So when you talk to these folks, you normally find out that the water is up on the deck of the boat before they ever realize it. Man, a $50 bilge alarm can give you early critical warning to apply your damage control to those fittings that are normally the cause of a boat taking on water. So get yourself a good bilge alarm. And then a simple little kit. Identify, like if your boat's on a trailer, look at all those below the waterline through hole fittings. That's where your water's typically going to come in, and know how you're going to access it from the inside, because sometimes those access ports are tiny. It's hard to get hands down in there. and have a kit that's specific for effecting temporary repairs on those failed through hulls. And we've got a damage control kit. It's a very simple kit, Winston, and in that kit we carry some.
Okay, I got a picture. Let's see, we've got a picture coming right here. Here it is, right here. So.
Yep, we got some spare clamps in there. We've got some zip ties. There's a bicycle inner tube that I've cut to be a flat piece that you can wrap around, zip tie, cord. There's some clear Gorilla Tape in there which sticks to wet stuff. It is super good.
Okay.
We've applied some pressure to that. We purposely ruptured a hose and applied some pressure to that, and that. Now, it didn't stop it, but the goal of damage control is not to stop the leak, but it's to slow it to a point that your bilge pump will keep up and you can get back in. And then also in that damage control kit, there's some foam balls, which can be really great for wedging in those small ports and passages that most often your boat's going to take.
Good deal. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then I guess the last thing we want to talk about is, okay, all of this has failed, and now you've got to abandon the boat, or you're clinging to the hull of an overturned boat. You want to have a ditch kit, and in that ditch kit is what we call the 3 S's: safety, survival, and signaling. Near shore, you might not need the survival stuff like extra water and food, but some of our boaters that go well offshore would want some of that in their ditch kit. And extra means of communication, from the little handheld VHF radio that we've got a picture of, and then here we've got a PLB and an EPIRB, and some people have actually both of those on board. And I think you guys carry like a little pouch on your a thigh pouch. What's in there?
Right on our PFDs, we'll have our EPIRB, that exact one on screen on the bottom there. We'll have whistles. We used to carry flares, not so much anymore. We keep them on board. Actually, I had to use some the other night to look for a glider had fallen in the water, and we were searching. Got dark pretty quick, so had to pop a couple of those flares. But yeah, we'll keep all our stuff ready to go.
Got a signal mirror in there.
Signal mirror. Got our boat crew knife. And then we keep our own boat crew bags as well, so we'll have our helmets, goggles, all that stuff. So we are very prepared for our underway.
Well, I'm very familiar with the EPIRB, but we fish a lot off Carabel in a private boat. We go 30, 40 miles out, and we just would not go without an EPIRB.
Oh no, you can't. You're that far off. Your VHF and your cell phone are not going to work.
Yeah.
And let's talk about a layered communication strategy. So when I'm getting close to retirement, I recently sold my power boat, so I'm down to kayak fishing only. I catch more on my kayaks than I do my power boat. I think because it forces me to fish instead of run. But yeah, I've got my phone, and I keep it in a waterproof floating pouch. That's a big one.
That's right.
And then I've also got my my little handheld floating waterproof VHF radio and my PLB that I keep in my ditch bag. I have a little ditch bag that I keep in my in my kayak. It's in a float-free location, ready to roll. And here's something that your viewers might be interested in. You don't hear a lot about is sea dye. We did some testing 2 National Safe Boating Weeks ago.
This is interesting. I was not that familiar with this, so this is cool. Is this a picture of it here? Or is that?
Yeah, that's sea dye. And when we did this exercise, we were bringing in our rescue helicopters and airplanes, and they had no idea what they were coming in looking for. We put them on a search pattern, and they detected that sea dye from about 5 miles away.
Wow.
So this is kind of a recreational grade sea dye. There's some industrial grade sea dye that has a much more duration, if you will, than this. But
wow, I mean, you just stand out right there. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then also the color of that life jacket and the reflective tape on that life jacket are... On our 144 aircraft, we have a 4-camera FLIR system that can kind of be trained to look for color.
Yeah.
And we put somebody in a black life jacket and an orange life jacket in the water side by side, and the camera actually picked that life jacket up at 7.2 miles.
No way.
No, man, I'm not kidding you. Wow. Those 144 twin-engine airplanes we have with that FLIR camera are incredible search and rescue assets. If we're ever stranded out there, we want that. We want those looking for us.
I'm telling you, that's amazing. 7.2 miles.
Yep. And they'll another thing, they'll be out there on a search pattern, and they'll get a little blip on their radar, and they'll go looking at one of those Mylar balloons that the helium ran out of, that's sitting on the surface of the Gulf, and it's pinging from 5 miles or so away on their radar. So I like those little survival blankets that are made out of that same metallic Mylar stuff, and they make a great. You know, they're yay big, they weigh nothing, they cost $3, so why not stick them in a kit? And, we've unfurled those and floated them behind a survivor in the water. And again, the detection distance on those is much greater than it would be if you're just in the water with a life jacket.
Wow,
100%.
that's good, strong stuff. Okay, our next picture, what do we have here?
That's just a floating handheld waterproof VHF radio. And you mentioned being way offshore earlier. This is probably not going to make it back to our towers on shore, but there's also other boaters that are out there. So you don't necessarily have to be within radio distance of the Coast Guard towers, but radio distance of another boater.
We have a lot of freshwater fishermen too who fishing like Apalachicola Bay and all, and that definitely reach out from Apalachicola Bay, Shockatahatchee Bay, to get stranded. And I've had friends that've been stranded out there on cold mornings. I mean, and actually needed this. So you never know when you need this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, redundancy is it's absolutely critical. In my 39 years, Winston, I've seen a number of cases where having a simple device like that would have made a life-saving difference.
Yeah. I know.
And now we're looking at that fixed VHF radio, and look at that red arrow pointing at that distress button. Most boaters have VHF radios on board their boat, and they have this distress button. It takes two things to make that work. You got to have a GPS signal coming into the radio, and the easiest way to get that is to buy a GPS radio.
Okay.
And you can see the GPS location showing up on this one. Or you wire it to your GPS. Mm-hmm. So that's step number one. And step number two, for it to work as designed, is to register it. So you can Google U.S. Power Squadron Free MMSI registration, and there's a way to register it there. And there's a little convention to get it programmed into the radio. Okay. But that tells us you're going to put in all the information about yourself and about your boat, and it gives us information before we head out there. And this is what's really critical. If it was an accidental activation or some kind of quirk, it allows us to contact you and learn that you were in fact not in distress if you weren't. So,
that's cool.
And EPIRBs too. They, unregistered EPIRBs and unregistered VHF radios, if we talk to our search and rescue command centers, they wouldn't let you get off of that topic because it's just that critical. We see it so often that we don't have good registration information.
We're going to take a final break. Be right back. Okay, welcome back. Sitting here with Paul and I want to say Brendan. I know a lot of Brandons, but we're glad to have both of y'all. Let's take a quick look at our fishing game time brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers in Port St. Joe. One time today, 10:54 to 12:54. That full moon will be tomorrow night. So be looking for it. So I've got a lot more stuff to cover, so let's get on it.
So yeah, let's actually loop back and kind of close out that last chapter of the emergency drills. We're doing good on time here, and I'm glad. But so before you get underway, just have a quick brief. Brendan, before you guys get underway for anything, what do you guys do for that particular voyage?
We've got our risk assessment. We run through every single time we do anything with our boats. We run through our GAR risk assessment, our general assessment of risk. Mm-hmm. We'll go through our plan, the environment, so local weather, tides, stuff like that. How our boat's doing, if there are any discrepancies that we know of that we have to deal with while we're underway. Same with the people. If we're tired, if we're outside of parameters, or not outside of parameters, but people get tired. Wears on you. Stuff like that, and we just make sure that we're as ready as possible when we get underway. Goes along with those drills, and just so everybody on the crew is aware of everything, every kind of any possibility there may be for dangers on the water while we're underway.
So as I do my training visits, I mentioned earlier that I was down at the Texas-Mexico border. I was doing some training with our 3 stations down in that area. And I run them through a drill. I've got a bunch of bags in here. You saw them in my truck out there. And so I'll put them in front of these folks, and I'll give them a list, and it's got 3 things on it. It's typically put on a life jacket, grab a damage control kit. So there's this list of very, very simple items, and I put them on a stopwatch, and I say, okay, do it. And we often time out the drill before they complete it. And these are very qualified boating professionals like this, but they're unfamiliar with what equipment we have.
Right.
So then we run them through it again and say, okay, well this time we're going to do it again, put everything back where you got it. But take just 1 minute to have a discussion before you do. And then typically in 30 seconds, they've got it. So it's kind of the same way when we get underway. If you've ever gotten underway on somebody else's boat, you just probably hop on it and you're a happy passenger. Have a very brief discussion about where everything's located, who's going to do what, when that person falls overboard, when there's a fire, when you're taking on water. But let's kind of get back into the ditch kits a little bit, and
Okay.
I'll tell you a story. Right after I retired from active duty, I took a job as a search and rescue controller, and we had a case where a guy took off in his boat. He was at a camp that was accessible only by water, and he was going to take his boat to buy more beer and cigarettes at a little store that he could access by his boat, and a nasty summer thunderstorm came through. Well, we searched for 5 days, Winston, and my boss popped in and said, "Paul," he said, "you know, we got to talk about suspending." I said, "You know, I honestly don't know where else we could possibly look. We've saturated the area. We've considered every possible scenario. I don't know what else I can do, but I'm really bothered by this because we hadn't found any trace of him." I'm like, man, he could still be out there, but it comes to a point, Winston, where you have to stop. You've done everything you can. So we suspended on the 5th day. On the 9th day, way away from where he was supposed to go, up under a cypress canopy where we couldn't have seen him from the air, where we couldn't have gotten to from his boats, where some boaters found him. And
Oh, my goodness.
he was so torn up from insect bites that his eyes were swollen shut. And his mouth was almost swollen shut. So as you look in my little ditch kit there, and it's a little different over in Louisiana than it is here, but there's a few creature comfort items in there, like sunscreen and lip balm, and there's a little tube of insect repellent there. So those are not necessarily life-saving, but if you're ever out there in an extended search and rescue situation, those items can definitely come in handy and provide quite a bit of comfort for you.
Definitely feel like it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
But you know, you guys worked a taken on water case. 5 or 6 people on board
We
last
did.
week. You got out there. Did everybody have their life jackets on?
They did when we got there.
Well, man, that is good. So, did we have radio contact with them?
Yes, so we were able to reach contact with them. Actually, we had some help with dive team from Panama City as well. We had probably 3 or 4 boats out there, making sure that we had the sufficient help. But we were able to make contact with them. Obviously, have one of our members step on board with our P6 dewatering pump, and like I said, transfer people, get our person on board, get the water out, and it's crazy because you would think that it's a problem with the boat itself, but is actually in this situation just they were backing down on something. Wave came right over the back, filled up their bilge, and pumps couldn't keep up.
And that's how it is. It's amazing how, like I said, how things are going to happen real quick, and it happens all over the place. It will happen this summer. So some of us around here, so be prepared.
Yeah, it's if you were to Google right now, capsized boat, you would find pictures, and a lot of those pictures would have people on that capsized boat that don't have life jackets on it. More often than not, there's immediate onset emergencies, like kind of backing down in your swamp, and then there's progressive onset.
Okay, and you have a life jacket on.
Oh yeah. I had totally forgotten I have a life jacket on. So this is a minimally protective Coast Guard approved device.
There it is, right around his belt. Look at there.
And you can't tell me that's too uncomfortable to wear during a fishing trip or a boating voyage.
It was around his belt, and just that's simple. So it's been a great show, guys. Thank you. We've still got a lot more stuff to talk about. Maybe we'll get y'all to come back on pretty soon.
We'd love to, Winston.
Thank you so much, folks. A lot of good stuff here, a lot of important information. So, got to wrap it up for today. Listen, thank y'all for watching the show. Enjoy the outdoors. Take care of the outdoors. Do something good for someone else today. And God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.